Which song do you want to do next for us?
I was going to do the Vanlife.
Yeah, that's the song I was referring to, and I didn't want to throw you off your game and what you'd planned to do, but certainly one of our favorites off the album, and certainly a great story in there.
Oh, mine too. Yeah, no, there's no game.
Yep.
There's no. Well, it's all a gamble, but no, it's not a game. Yeah. Are you ready for it?
For Vanlife,
Yeah.
certainly.
All right, we'll tear it off. Well, I quit my job, making minimum wage. I look fairly well twice and act half my age. I'm looking for somewhere that can handle the rage of a young man on the run. With rarely paid taxes and awful insurance and a glove box full of summons and warrants and a finely tuned wish things were that weren't, you could say I was looking for fun. So I bought an '01 red Dodge Ram. I bought 2 pints of whiskey and a 30 of hams. Now I'm peeing in bottles and eating from cans. But you can't call me homeless, friends, 'cause I live in my van. They call it van life. I've been told this, it's a fine life. I've been sold this. It's a fine line between having to and choosing it. Let's roll up, let's blow this. Well, the 7-Eleven is a sure bellyache. I subsist on a mere wake and bake. Talladega to Chicago's lakes, or I'll take your largest case. So all the girls from Chickamauga to Passamaquoddy speak enviously of my van's rusty body. This old thing might just be a Bugatti, the way I get it from 60 to 0. Yeah, I'm 60 miles of Fargo on a northern track. I'm a burning rubber, no looking back. Pushing that thing like a maniac. I get tipped out like a stripper, no judgment, in singles and crack. Ooh, I wish Uncle Joe would fund Amtrak. Instead, it's the van life. I've been told this, it's a fine life. I've been sold this. It's a fine line between having to and choosing it. Let's roll up, let's blow this. Well, the South of St. Louis can be a little gritty. It's a far cry from Seattle's tent cities. All in all, life's pretty from the Starship Enterprise. Still a guy with a house and a big old lawn thinks his block's too good for me to park on. Bangs on my door with a letter that tells about 1,000 ways he can make my life hell. And he's worse than the guy who put a brick through my glass and robbed me blind and siphoned my gas. At least I know that guy needed it bad. Oh, I wish that old boy well. In the meantime, a cop is banging on my door, telling me I can't park here no more. What do you do, friends? What do you say? You gotta rev up the engine. You rev up the engine. You rev, it doesn't always turn over the first time. You rev up the engine and drive away. Chalk that up to the van life. I've been told this, it's a fine life. I've been sold this. It's a fine line between having to and choosing it. Let's roll it up, let's blow this. Yeah, it's a sexy kind of lifestyle for certain folks. Fractal highways, friends like smoke. It all goes up and you end up alone, like the internet is your real home. Call of the wild, call of the road, the endless search for a clean commode. I'm a trucker of emotional payloads on a 5-string guitar. I'm a public park patron, I'm a library sleuth, I'm a thrift store grifter, a western suits. I'm ringing out 3 chords and the truth like a wash rag on a bar. Every time I'm feeling down on my luck, think I might trade it in for a couple of bucks, I hear some guy like Elon Musk talk about how we're all gonna get cyber trucks. I think, God, life must be easy when you're one of these dang billionaire gentlemen. I'm pretty sure that I prefer the van life. I've been told this, it's a fine life. I've been sold this. It's a fine line between having to and choosing it. Let's roll it up, let's smoke her down. It's a big rig, new town, same old night, the whole world over, whole world over. I'm sitting sad, I'm wondering why meritocracy's a lie. Oh, let's blow this.
WNCW with Willi Carlisle here in Studio B. Joe Greene, man, my head's still spinning. I'm absorbing all of that story. Because, man, that was a lot of words and imagery packed into a song right there.
You know, and that's about half the length that I originally wrote it at.
How long did it take you to write all that? I bet it wasn't long.
You know, I was about to tell you, yeah, not very long. I have a problem, I think. I think it's that I really do. Because I brought that into the studio and I was telling, you know, Joel Savoy, who's the enfant terrible of Cajun music right there, and he had a low-key Grammy on his desk, and you know, I'm easily intimidated by that kind of thing, and I had to be like, hey, I've got this 9-minute long talking like trucking blues, and he's like, no, you don't. You got a 5-minute one. We'll find it in there. So occasionally for live shows, I like to do the 9-minute one just for, you know, just to show that I can.
Well, sure.
and really
you know,
fun,
you're going to put out a live album, you know, sometime here down the road.
Yeah, why
and
wouldn't
do that?
Yeah. We get all the extra verses crammed in there.
There you go, man. That is quite a song, brother. And you know, I've read some things, you know, about you, and I've read your own material, and you are a studier of poetry, or have been, and I'm sure you never stopped really doing that, so I'm sure you still are. College degree for that, but you kind of downplay all of that schooling and all of that knowledge and vocabulary and things. You put it all into a really cool traditional folk sound. And
I appreciate that. You know, I'm the beneficiary of a classical sentimental education, which is to say that I'm downwardly mobile, and my middle class parents were very disappointed, and I'm okay with that because it took a long time for me to. It didn't take a long time for me to want to be a folk singer at all. It was all I wanted to do, but it was a little too close to the bone. It took like a little bit of self-discovery, and getting to study poetry in the meantime, and getting to write poetry in the meantime was great because I got to experiment with my voice and figure out what it was I wanted to do, and also practically apprentice with a bunch of living folk singers, which was really, that's really been the most important part is, in page poetry, and I do think in a lot of songwriting, it's just like, oh, look, aren't my feelings so deeply important? I do think people's feelings are important. I just don't want mine to be the entirety of where I hang my hat. There's this beautiful long river of history that we can, you know, plug into with these old songs, and I feel pretty honored to be a part of that, a lot more than I felt honored to try to express my own sort of very specific pains or whatever. Does anybody really need a slim volume of verse written by a 6'4", 300-pound dude from Kansas? Not necessarily. I don't think so. I wouldn't read it. I want the folk album. That's what I want. Yeah.
Well, I've read your things, and they drop names like Uncle Walt and E.E. Cummings and Sandberg, you know, and those are folks you studied and respect, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you know, Walt Whitman I just go back to all the time. You know, it's really pretty simple, right? His great big synecdoche, everybody is in love all the time. The world is massive. The world's in a grain of sand or in a mustard seed, to get biblical, all the time, right? And then I liked Carl Sandburg because he was a folk singer. He sang dozens, if not hundreds, of folk songs while accompanying himself very poorly on the guitar. And I really like it when somebody plays and sings poorly for joy, especially when they do it in public. That's like one of my favorite. I wish everybody did that, you know.
Well, it's a purity. It turns you on, you know. And Sandberg's home is in this region. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did. I know that he retired out here to raise goats, and with his wife Lillian. And so this is actually pretty appropriate because his birthplace is kind of where I decided I wanted to be a folk singer. I was sitting under a rock that he was buried under. Sitting on top of a rock that he was buried under, and I had a banjo in my hand, and it was after dark, and I was just thinking, well, this is what I should do. So I guess I hope to be chasing Carl Sandburg's ghost around the country until I die. That'd be great.
That's terrific. And Utah Phillips, a hero of yours, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my first hitchhiking trips, I was shot at with some BB guns by some local kids.
Oh gosh!
So that's the lead into I got a Greyhound after a day of not getting picked up, and I felt like such a failure, like this romantic task I was doing had failed. But I would never have listened to it But in my iPod shuffle, I think at the time, was Utah Phillips's "We Fed You All for 1,000 Years," and it was all I had to entertain me. I didn't have a book or anything, so I just ran through that album maybe 6 or 8 times, and yeah, ever since I've been really fascinated by him. I hope the journey's just beginning with learning more about Utah, because right now it's like being enamored of the performance style and also wanting to be a part of trying to do decent things with the world with folk music. Yeah.
All right. One thing I learned a term that maybe I'm just out of touch, but a term related to maybe the song that you just finished, Vanlife. A term called speak singing, and I'm an old timey DJ, Willie. Back in the day when Hank Williams and all them were doing it, we called it recitation, and there was some other spoken word or something. But I wasn't aware there was a thing called speak singing. Is that?
I mean, it sounds like a coinage to me. I guess I thought I was regular singing, but
that was in. I think I read that in the article you commented about on social media, the whiskey riff.
Yeah. I'm flattered to have anybody think about my singing at all, and if they've got to call it talking, that's fine, because like I said, anybody that sings and plays guitar poorly is a friend of mine, if I could, I would just be a square dance caller, and get into auctioneering if there was money in it. Those have been my favorite couple things.
After watching you sing Vanlife live, I am confident that you could be successful at either or both of those things.
I mean, I have done a lot of square dance calling. I've never done any auctioneering, but it's sort of bucket list for me. Yeah, I've gotten to sort of sit in once or twice, but just a line of dung a mile long and an inch deep is what my dad says about it, and that's kind of what I like about it.
All right.